Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to be talking about the Yin Yang, more specifically Taoism and natural law, how they are linked and how it affects us all. Although this is related to Chinese philosophy, there are elements here that are universally understood all around the world. So, what is the Yin Yang? The Yin Yang are the two opposing forces that are part of one entity that keeps things moving in one direction. This is the way, the Tao. According to the philosopher Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, Taoism is a philosophy about the way, understanding it and living with it. But what exactly is the way? The way can be described as two opposite forces working in tandem with one another. There is light and there is darkness, hot and cold, fast and slow, male and female, order and chaos, logic and emotion, spiritual and material, objective and subjective, loud and silence, observable and unobservable, beauty and ugliness, hard and soft, strong and weak, right and wrong, moral and immoral. This is the way, the Tao. These are just some of the opposing forces that keep the universe moving. As we can see, all of this is part of nature, the universe that is all around us. As the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu says in chapter 4 of the Tao Te Ching, quote, "The Tao is insubstantial, infinite. When used, it cannot be exhausted. It is so deep as if it is the origin of myriad objects." Unquote. The Tao does not have an original starting point or an end, because it is in constant flow. Imagine a river. No matter how many times you cross it, the water still flows. That's how the Tao works, in continuous flux. Opposites work together as one. It is impossible to separate the two. Our minds are split into two. We have an emotional side and we have a logical side. Men are rational, women are emotional. This is the way of Mother Nature. Some are more emotional than others, while some are more rational than others. This is the way things are, so let them be. How many times have we heard the phrase, follow your heart? Our heart needs to work with our minds so that we can make sensible decisions instead of reckless ones that have catastrophic consequences. Here again, we see two conflicting forces within ourselves. We have desires, and yet we have the ability to be aware of the consequences. Thus, we must be careful with our decision making. All decisions based on emotion lead to chaos. We all have a spiritual side and a material side. Our bodies are material. Our souls are the spiritual side. When we die, our bodies decay and then recycle back into the material realm, while our souls depart from our bodies and it is recycled back into the spiritual realm. This is the Tao. This is the way things are. So let them be. The power of the way. What's amazing about this natural law is that sometimes the softest and the slowest force is actually the strongest force than something that is hard and fast. To prove my point, imagine a coast. The waves of the sea hit the side of a cliff again and again. Nothing happens in a single day, but in time, the cliff cracks and falls into the sea, where the waves continue to splash onto it like thousands of hammers and chisels. It is a matter of time before the broken cliffside becomes a beach. This is the natural process of erosion. Although water is soft and the waves are slow as they hit the cliff, the change is gradual. Here's a Greek myth you may have heard of, the athlete Milo of Croton. When he was a young boy, he was given a male calf. His task was to carry the calf to the top of a hill and back every day. As time went by, the bull got bigger and heavier. The boy grew stronger. When the boy grew up, he became known as the strong man who can carry a bull. The one thing this proves is that strength building is a gradual process, not a sudden occurrence. It took a lot of hard work for the man to work his way to become this strong. This is the same as someone who does physical training every day. As time goes by, they get stronger. This applies to resistance training. A person who swims every day becomes a much better swimmer than someone who doesn't. A person who has a healthy diet lives a longer, healthier life. Once again, we are met with the power of natural law. When you commit to something within your grasp, you can accomplish it. It is our responsibility to accept things as they are. There are many things we cannot change. The will of nature. Taoism is also about balance. Too much water can drown a plant, but too little water will kill the plant. If we eat too much, we become fat. If we eat too little, we die. This goes back to what I mentioned in a previous video about the need for fitness. I'll put the link in the description below. If we work too much, then we have no time for rest or leisure. This will have a negative impact on our mental health and physical health. But if we don't work at all, we become lazy and unproductive. When a force goes one way, it is only inevitable that an opposing force will push it in a different direction. An overbearing parent will make their children unable to make their own decisions. But an absent parent will make children lost and confused. So it is vital for parents to guide their children, prepare them for life, and let them make their own decisions when they grow up, not to be continually dictated to. A micromanaging boss at work will make his workers frustrated and feel belittled. Therefore, the lack of trust is going to impact the workers' mental health and productivity negatively. However, if a boss is absent and the workers are given too much autonomy, no tasks, no deadlines, and all free will, they are not very likely to do much work. There has to be balance of authority and autonomy. When a government becomes too authoritarian to the point of micromanaging its citizens, rebellion is inevitable. At the same time, we cannot live in a world where there is no government, law and order, otherwise there will be chaos. Once again, there needs to be a balance. This is why social hierarchy is important. The Chinese philosopher Confucius teaches us to know one's place and to stay in it. The harmony of hierarchy. Somebody once summed this all up by describing the heat of fire. If you are too far from a flame, you won't feel its warmth, but if you are too close to it, you will burn. Thus, a sensible distance is crucial. Once again, this is a statement about balance. As I mentioned earlier, this is what happens when two opposing forces work together as one. It's harmony. If one force goes too far in one direction, the opposing force will simply pull it back in the opposite direction. This is just like waves. Sound comes in waves. Water makes waves when it moves. Vibrations come with every beat. Light comes in waves. Wavelengths have different effects. That's why we have such light as infrared and ultraviolet. Ultrasound also comes in waves. It is used to measure if there are any fish under the water, and it can be used to monitor the heartbeat of a baby while a mother is pregnant. If something is too yin, it either needs some yin to be removed or it needs yang to be added, and vice versa. Think of yin yang as a wave of energy that swings back and forth in regular rhythm between two extremes. Let us imagine the ground as yin and the seed as yin. When the seed germinates, it becomes yang. When it rises from the soil, it becomes yang. This is because the soil and the seed are still and quiet. While the plant begins to grow and rise out of the ground, it is alive and moving. The yin within the yang. You feel hungry because your body needs food and energy in order to live. You feel tired because your body needs sleep. You feel sad because your body either needs activity and or social interaction. Again, this is natural law. This is your body telling you to do something about the suffering it is feeling. You must eat, otherwise you starve. You must sleep, otherwise you burn out. You must exercise, otherwise you become unfit. You must socialize, otherwise you become lonely. Once you obtain what your body needs, Your body is back in balance in order to live. This all goes back to what I talked about in a previous video about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'll put the link to that in the description below. All these things are a result of suffering. As Buddha teaches us, suffering is part of life. Life is suffering. I talked about Buddhism in a previous video too. I'll put the link to that in the description below. We suffer in order to remind us to bring balance to our lives. When we have worries and anxiety caused by emotions which may be triggered by external factors, it is our chance to assess our desires and needs in order to focus our attention on balancing our mental state and focus on solving problems. This is why meditation is useful. It works because it rebalances our minds. If the mind becomes too overwhelmed with emotion, there will be an emotional breakdown with no direction. If our minds ignore our emotions, we will cause mental damage and neglect our emotional needs. So therefore, we must acknowledge our emotions, find out what it is we need, and then act accordingly. For example, if you feel sad, work out what it is that is upsetting you. Work out a solution and then act accordingly. Find something that will make you feel better, such as art or music. I talk about the benefits of art and music in another video. I'll put the link to the description below. But be warned, do not respond to your emotions straight away. It shows a lack of maturity. Think before you act. Instant reactions are indications of a lack of thought. We mustn't let emotion cloud our judgment. This is how the Yin Yang contributes to our mental health. Love starts within the mind but is projected outwardly. Combat and bloodshed are the result of anger and desire. The greatest cities of the world are the result of human ingenuity. Once again, the Yin Yang is about balance, harmony. It is the way of life, thus natural law. This is why men and women are different. This is why they work in different fields. Some can do some tasks better than others. This is what gender roles mean. They are natural, and this is good. These tasks are what Mother Nature bestowed upon us. Men are to be physically strong, rational, protectors and providers for the family and the tribe. Women are to be emotional, loving, nurturing, caring, mothers and lovers. These are the natural roles that Mother Nature gave us. The man brings home the food, the wife cooks it. This is a love language. This demonstrates their commitment to one another. These genders express their love and devotion to one another by using the gifts they were naturally born with, strengthening the spiritual bond between them. They complement each other. It is beautiful. Mutual love brings joy to this world. Although the vast majority of men are similar to one another and the vast majority of women are similar to one another, sure, they come in different shapes and sizes, different personalities, different genes, different cultures, different tastes and interests. However, there are some exceptions, and that is okay. Every person has a gift they can give to this world. When one looks within to find out what those gifts are and nurture them, they become valuable tools. They become the necessary people we need in our lives to fulfill our needs. A talented musician will make us feel better with music, while the builder will build houses we need for shelter, while the chef will cook us nutritious meals, while the teacher will educate the next generation of children, etc. We as humans complement each other. It is up to you to find out your natural gift, what it is you are good at, overcome your weaknesses and make yourself better. You complement the people around you. We complement each other. I talked about this in more detail regarding work, how we need the people around us and how valuable they are in a previous video called The Journey of the Broccoli. I'll put the link to that in the description below. As I mentioned earlier, there are some exceptions. If you are a woman who is a physically strong athlete, very well, practice and get better at it. If you are a man who is good at knitting, very well, keep doing it. When you embrace your natural self, Instead of conforming to unrealistic external standards imposed upon you, you develop a better way to understand yourself. You can make use of your strengths and overcome your weaknesses. If you can do this, you are not only a natural version of what you are meant to be, but a better version of yourself. But I must remind you, the willful resisting of the will of nature is futile. Be mindful of your decision making. There are consequences. Whatever you give to this world comes back to you. Embrace how Mother Nature made you out to be. This is your purpose. Your purpose brings meaning to your life. Opposites do not mean that one is superior to another. They are different. They complement each other. Hence, harmony. The north of a magnet is neither superior nor inferior to the south of a magnet. We cannot change the way of Mother Nature. If you try and do so, you will end up suffering. A bird cannot fly against the wind, otherwise it will become tired, needlessly lose energy, then fall. A fire cannot cool you down the same way ice cannot warm you up. You don't have to take my word for it. Just go to a desert or an ice cap and see for yourself. You cannot force the north of magnets to be attracted to each other when they repel each other. It is our duty to accept things as they are. We owe our very existence to nature, the Yin Yang, the Tao. Therefore, we must show it respect. There is positive and there is negative. The Yin Yang is about differences in an equal way that work together. I will emphasize here that one is not superior to the other. The same goes for gender. They are different forces working together. Throughout this video, I have been using the words Mother Nature. Is there a link? Yes. When we look at the word mother, what is it based on? Mother, maternity, matter, material, chaos. Everything we see and touch is material, hence Mother Nature. Yin represents female, emotion, and chaos. Mother Nature is female, hence chaos. It is constantly changing. This is why we have different climates and weather conditions. There is a good side to nature and there is a bad. On the one hand, we get sunny weather and rainy days, blizzards and storms. There are forests and seas. On the other hand, we have natural disasters. We get earthquakes, floods, mudslides, and volcanic eruptions. There are also bushfires and tsunamis. Mother Nature represents all that is visible, everything we can feel and touch. So what is the opposite of all this? The spiritual father. What does the word father mean? Where does the word paternity come from? Here we have father, paternity, pattern, spirit, spiritual, order. Yang represents male, logic, and order. This is why mathematics is masculine. 2 plus 2 will always be 4. 5 times 5 will always be 25. There are 360 degrees in a circle. We have time, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, and millenniums, etc. The sun tells us what time of the day it is. The moon tells us what day of the month we are in. The solstices and the equinoxes tell us what the seasons we are in. We are living in a beautiful cosmic clock. All of this held together by the forces of the spiritual father, and the Mother Nature reveals her visual glory at the same time. Maths and physics are the visible forces that holds everything in place. Gravity is what enables us to stand on the ground. If there was no gravity, everything will be floating around with no direction. Our planets would be crashing into each other. Order is what holds everything in place. It sets boundaries. However, this male yang energy is not something you can see, feel, or touch. It cannot be measured. It cannot be altered. You can make a vase out of clay by molding it with your hands. Sure, it has its shape and texture and material composition, but the idea of the vase, the internal image and the imagination, the design of the vase is immaterial. The male yang energy represents all that is masculine, hence rational. It complements the female yin energy, emotion. All of this applies to the animal kingdom as well. There are plant eaters and meat eaters, predators and prey. There are animals that can fly and animals that cannot fly. There are animals that can swim and animals that cannot swim. There are mammals and birds, reptiles and amphibians, fish and insects. There are animals that live in water and there are those that live on land. For example, a bear is a four-legged land animal that eats fish. A deer eats plants. The lion eats the deer. Birds eat insects. All of them play a role that Mother Nature gave to them. All of them fighting for dominance in order to reproduce and survive. Finally, once again, all of this is the way of life, the will of nature, the Yin Yang, the Tao, an unstoppable force. This is natural law in motion. It is everlasting. It is powerful. It is beautiful and cruel at the same time, a marvel to behold, and it deserves our utmost respect and adoration. To conclude this video on this subject, I recommend two books. There are so many books out there on Taoism and on the Yin and Yang that it is easy to be overwhelmed by the subject. So at least here, I recommend two books that will be a good starting point. If you want to understand the Yin Yang from a Western perspective, I recommend The Ultimate Guide to Yin Yang by Anthony Cummins. He is a historian who specializes in Japanese history, the Japanese military history, the samurai, and the ninja. He has spent many years translating ancient Japanese documents and bringing Eastern ideas to the West and making them more accessible. If you want to understand the Yin Yang and Taoism from an Eastern perspective, I recommend you read The Tao Te Ching, a Qigong interpretation by Dr. Yang Jwing-Ming. He is an author, scholar, and teacher. He has written many books on the subject. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this enlightening. May the forces of Yin Yang bring balance to your life. Take good care of yourselves.